All right. Welcome to the Thrifty Tips podcast. Today we are diving deep into something that I know a lot of us love, and that is budget travel.
Hmm.
You want to see the world without totally breaking the bank, and I think we've got some really cool stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things is that we're not just talking about, you know, backpacking and really roughing it. We're talking about how to find like luxury travel hacks
Yeah.
and really maximize value.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's start with probably the first thing you got to think about when you're planning a trip, which is the destination.
Right.
So it's not just about picking a place that's considered cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I found interesting in the research is, you're not necessarily just trying to pick the cheapest country.
Right.
One of the sources actually suggests using things like Google Trends
Oh, interesting.
to see like what is trending upward in popularity but hasn't quite hit peak tourist season or pricing yet.
Okay.
So they give a couple examples like Tbilisi, Georgia,
Oh, cool.
the Azores in Portugal.
Love it.
Kind of like off the beaten path a little bit, but
Yeah.
on the rise.
So up and coming.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
So let's say we've got our eye on, this hidden gem of a destination.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get there affordably?
Yeah.
Because flights can be a real budget killer.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the, typical advice applies, flexible dates, alternate airports.
Right.
But one of the sources had something that I thought was really interesting, and maybe you've heard of this before, hidden city ticketing.
Hidden city ticketing.
Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Okay, so basically this is a bit of a travel hack, but it can be legitimate.
Interesting.
What you do is you book a flight with a layover in your desired city,
Okay.
but you intentionally skip the final leg of the journey.
Oh, wow.
So it can be cheaper than booking a direct flight to that city, but you need to be aware of the risks and the rules involved.
Yeah, this sounds a little bit like too good to be true, so I definitely
It can be.
want to learn more about that. I like that. Okay, so we've got our destination.
Yeah.
We've hacked our flight.
Yeah.
Now we've got to figure where to stay.
Right.
And accommodations can also be, pretty pricey.
They can be, yeah. I mean, hostels are kind of the classic budget traveler option. But, if you're looking for something a little bit nicer that's not, luxury hotel prices.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked into sites like Vrbo?
I've heard of Vrbo. I actually haven't used it, though.
Okay, so they offer these vacation rentals,
Okay.
and they often have kitchens, which can be a huge money saver.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make some of your own meals, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vrbo, that's cool. What if I'm looking for something even a little more unique,
Yeah.
like beyond the hotel, the rental?
Right. Yeah, so then we might be getting into the realm of house sitting.
House sitting?
Have you ever heard of this?
I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it.
Okay, so basically you care for someone's home and maybe their pets while they're away. It often comes with zero accommodation costs.
Wow.
And you get to live like a local.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so many cool ideas already. If you're enjoying all these tips, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel to get even more great travel tips.
Absolutely. All right, so let's say we've got, we've landed in our dream destination. We've got our amazing house sitting situation or Vrbo, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, how do we actually get around the city?
Yeah.
Transportation, can add up,
It can.
especially if you're, taking taxis or ride shares everywhere.
Yeah.
So public transportation almost always going to be your most budget-friendly option.
Yeah.
But a lot of cities also offer these amazing city passes or transportation cards.
Wow.
So it gives you unlimited rides on buses, trams, sometimes even ferries for a set period of time.
Oh, for sure. I've done those before.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's always walking or renting a bike.
Yes.
Which is not only budget-friendly, but good exercise.
Yeah, and you just get to see so much more of the city that way. I love that. Okay, so we talked about flights, accommodations, transportation. What about food? What about eating?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you're in a new place. You want to try all the delicious food.
Right. Of course.
But that can add up, too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, fancy restaurants can really drain your budget.
Yeah.
But street food markets.
Yes.
Those are amazing.
The best.
Like a haven for budget-conscious foodies.
Yeah.
Sample a variety of local delicacies
Yes.
for a fraction of the price.
Absolutely. And I think it's so fun, too, because, you're walking around, you see what looks good. You can try a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then we already talked about this, but if you're staying somewhere with a kitchen, cooking some of your own meals is such a good way to save money.
Definitely. Yeah.
But if you want to get like a really good immersive food experience, food tours are such a cool idea.
Yes.
You combine sightseeing with delicious food tastings.
Right. And you often get discounts at local restaurants.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we've covered a lot of like the kind of big expenses, but what about just like fun stuff? Free things to do, because every city has those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't underestimate the value of free activities.
Oh, sure.
A lot of museums will offer free admission days.
Oh, that's good to know.
There's always free walking tours, hiking trails, local parks to explore.
I love that. And you know what else? I always try to find out if there are any free events or festivals happening in the city,
Oh, yeah,
because that's just such a fun way to kind of experience the local culture without spending any money.
definitely. Yeah.
Speaking of free, did you know that this podcast is completely free?
Yeah.
To get even more free travel tips and advice like what you're hearing today, hit that subscribe button and we'll deliver them straight to your feed.
Okay, so let's talk about something super important for any traveler, even if you're on a tight budget.
Yes.
Travel insurance.
Yes.
It's not just about medical emergencies.
Right.
It's lost luggage, flight cancellations, all these unforeseen events that can happen.
Yeah. And it's something that you really don't want to have to think about when you're on your trip, but it's so important to have.
Right, yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that travel insurance is really expensive, but it doesn't have to be.
No, there are a lot of affordable options out there.
Yeah, I like websites like SquareMouth.
Yeah,
They let you compare different plans and kind of find what's the right fit for your needs.
definitely worth spending a little to potentially save a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's tackle maybe the least fun part of budget travel, but a super important part, which is money management.
Right.
Because it's so easy to overspend when you're, caught up in the excitement of traveling.
It is.
No.
Yeah.
So any tips there?
I mean, budgeting apps can be really helpful.
Yes.
They track your expenses, they set daily spending limits, and a lot of them even convert currencies on the fly.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
And speaking of currency exchange, that's something to research before you go,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people just, get to the airport and exchange money there, but you don't always get the best rates.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend?
Yeah. Using your debit card at an ATM abroad will often give you a better exchange rate
Okay.
than exchanging cash at a currency exchange booth.
Good to know. Those little fees can really add up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a ton of stuff today. What for you is like the biggest takeaway for our budget-minded listeners?
I would say it's the importance of research and planning.
Yeah.
Taking a little extra time to explore options, compare prices, and, learn some of these travel hacks can make a huge difference in your overall budget.
Totally agree. And, maybe you don't have to do all the things all the time, but even if you pick and choose a few of these tips,
Right.
it can make a big impact.
Yeah, and I think the other big takeaway for me is that budget travel is not about sacrificing experience.
Yeah,
It's about being resourceful and creative and open to these unique adventures.
I love that.
Some of the most memorable travel moments are those that happen spontaneously and unexpectedly,
Yeah, totally.
and those often don't cost a thing. Yeah.
So true. So after learning about all this,
Yeah.
what are you dreaming of? What's the next trip you want to take?
I think I'm ready to dust off my passport and embrace the world with a newfound sense of thrifty adventure.
I love it. Well, if you're feeling inspired like we are after this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more travel tips and inspiration.
Yeah, we'd love to have you along for the journey.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into budget travel.
Yeah, this was fun.
I hope you've walked away with some valuable tips and a renewed sense of wanderlust.
Definitely.
We'd love to hear your own thrifty travel experiences.
Yeah, share them with us.
And until next time, happy travels. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you later.